Howdy folks, the subject for this film is going to be fixing the U.S. Congress. And no, I'm probably not going to use this, but it might be handy to keep around just in case. Okay folks, everybody wants to talk about term limits. And there's a few things I have to say about term limits. Number one, I don't think it'll work. The reason I don't think it'll work is because the politicians are the ones proposing it. Now, I don't know whether you've looked at history or nothing, but every time the politicians propose a way to take the big money and its influence out of politics, more of the incumbents get reelected. No matter what we do, more of the incumbents get reelected. Just like now, everybody's mad about the special interest groups. Well now, we created special interest groups the last time we did campaign finance reform, and they were the things that were going to save us, and now they're the things that we're mad at. Gee, how many times we're going to do this before we quit doing the same thing over and over again? I've got a three-part plan to fix Congress. Part number one is we need to pass an amendment to the Constitution that makes our federal senators and our federal representatives employees of the state that sent them. Nobody should be able to vote on their own pay raise. Nobody should be able to vote government money for themselves. I think that we should make it that when the state sends their representatives to Washington, they get paid by the state, they're covered by the state insurance, they get all the state benefits. Now the state should probably have to pay them extra because they're going to have two homes. But for the most part, the representatives and the senators will be employees of the state governments, not of the federal government. And they should not be allowed to vote any federal money for themselves. Secondly, to focus them more and to keep the special interest, big money, whatever, from being able to focus their money, we need to change the way that jobs are given in Congress. Now, I don't know whether you all know this, but the real power in Congress is based on the committees, the chairmanships, and who sits on what committee. All those jobs are currently now given out on seniority basis. If your party is the majority party in Congress, it gets to pick the people that lead and go on what committees. I want to do away with all that. At the beginning of each session of Congress, I want to set up 3 lottery machines. One lottery machine will have the name of every member of that House in the majority party. One lottery machine will have the name of every member of that House in the minority party. And one lottery machine will have the name of all the committees. And what we do at the beginning of each session is you turn all the machines on. And then you go to the one with the job and you pull it up and it says, okay, House Ways and Means Committee, and the majority members are thus and so. He's the chairman, and you're going to have 3 more members, so you pick 3 more names out of the majority. Let's say you got 3 members out of the minority. It's these 3 guys, and that's good. And they're in charge of that committee for the duration of that Congress. What this does, it means that special interest money don't know where to focus their money for the elections. Let's say you got a banking industry special interest group. And if they already know who's going to be on the banking committees and subcommittees and whatever, they know who they need to keep getting elected. And the same people are going to serve on those committees year after year, so they build a relationship over a long period of time, and it gets kind of cozy. If we go to my way, they're never going to know where to send their money. You can focus your money, you can spend your attention, you can lobby the senators and representatives while they're on that committee, but once that session of Congress is over, you don't know if they're coming back to that committee or not. So there's less incentive to try to keep people in that shouldn't be there. And there's the relationships between the lobbyists and the legislators are shorter, because every session you got a whole new set of people going other different places. Now some folks say, well, that will just, cut back on all the experience that our legislators have in those committees. Well, yeah, so does term limits, but this way we still get to vote for people we want. Now, the third thing that I want to do for the legislatures, the state or the federal representatives and the federal senators, is kind of controversial. And I want you to hear me out before you just turn me off and walk away. I don't think we pay them enough. I know they make, several times more than us normal people, but look at it from a different point of view. Let's assume that our federal government was an armored car company, and it was responsible for driving cash around the country. Do you really want to pay your armored car drivers minimum wage? Do you think that if we've got minimum wage drivers in an armored car company, maybe some of the money's going to go missing? You think maybe there might be an inside job pulled? Or do you want to pay your armored car drivers a salary to the point that they can't really be influenced by other money? See, in this country, I think that we ought to pay our representatives, our senators, and probably even the president, vice president, and the members of the Supreme Court, they ought to make big money. I mean, probably not as big as professional basketball stars or football stars or baseball stars, but pretty darn good money. I'm thinking $1 million a year apiece. And for the senators and representatives, they get $1 million a year for every year that they serve in the Congress. And then when they're no longer in Congress, whether they're voted out in 1 term or 12 terms, they get the same state pension fund that everybody else gets. Now, if you're making $1 million a year and you can't put enough aside to take care of yourself once you're out, then you're probably not smart enough to be in Congress to begin with. Anyway, this is how Deacon Parsons would use his common sense to fix the federal Congress. Invite y'all to love your maker, love your mate, and do what's right because it's right, and devil take the hindmost.